Welcome back to the part 2 of Software Engineer Challenge Chat GPT to build AI website chatbot. Today we're going to talking about part 3 API part, Chatgpt.js coding. So I already wrote some code here. Basically, I added a file under API folder and start to write some code there. So basically the Chatgpt.api, this code will define API endpoint that use the OpenAI API to generate a response to a given prompt. And the endpoint, this is defined as an asynchronized function called Chatgpt that take in a request object, we call that REQ, and response object, we call it RES. And the Chatgpt function first extract message and then prompt ID parameter. After that, it checks if it's not emptied, it will return the error. If it's empty, if it's not empty, it's a valid value, it will return a response. So we also need to write get reply function here in this file, because this will be called with the message and the prompt ID. First, it uses Promptable library to retrieve the prompt text, which is associated to this prompt ID, and then it will replace the placeholder, the user input, the part where we put in curly bracket when we retrieve the prompt ID in the promptable workspace. If you recall, it's in the previous video. So that variable will be replaced by this message, which was inputted, typed in the GUI, in the chat container text box. So finally, the function uses OpenAI object generate a complete for this prompt. So we're gonna need to write a completion handler in the file too. This parameter for the completion will be defined based on the final prompt object created by combining the prompt text and configuration, which we saw later on in when we composite the OpenAI message. That's called configuration part, including temperature or all the parameters. And this finally the result, OpenAI result object will contain the compilation text. This will be returned from API get reply function. And here we also need to handle if the response or prompt ID, both of them, if they are not valid, we're gonna return the we're gonna call the exception. But we do that in a try-catch block, which will be described later on. For sure, we also need to put the env file, created a .env, and where we need to put the OpenAI API key, which I already explained how to retrieve that key from OpenAI website in the previous video, which is retrieved in my React start video. I showed the detailed steps for that part. So far, in the coding part, I encountered some problem. For example, this one, it's reporting some error through by use Chatgpt, but if you trace down, actually this error is happened when use Chatgpt try to call this fetch, which call lower and Chatgpt.api. So the real problem is still here. Based on the troubleshoot steps, we finally figure out actually we need some I can see I think it's open API key. We need that to be done first also. Now in the test we saw that's exactly the page where promptable workspace can be used to get this prompt ID. The prompt ID will be used copy from the emoji official website. I copy its prompt message and paste it here to generate the prompt ID. Then prompt ID I will copy paste to chatcontainer.js. But here I have some error message. Again, it looks like it's trying to. Yeah, you see the open the prompt ID, which is copied from the chat the prompt API workspace. After you run the deployment, you copy that key, paste it here. Then, if you call the function, for example, you put the variable input here, you get response, and you see from the debug console, the call is ID is exactly what you put, and the prompt ID they provide all information. Also, I can see the input part has been replaced by the variable I typed in. For example, if I type *vol, let's see, you're gonna see the input part has been replaced by *vol. But unfortunately, in this command window, because it doesn't support this character decoding, so I have to switch to VS Code debug window terminal, which will later on we're gonna see it's showing the emoji correctly. Yeah, Windows directed command prompt doesn't show the code visible by a human, like it's mass code. So I open terminal here in the VS Code. If I run the same npm run dev, the same command to launch my server, and now if I try the same *vol, but now it looks like I have issue. It's not showing. Actually, you just need to wait a while. I think you see it's coming. It's taken a little while for it to compile and loading. Now it's there. When you see the debug window, it's showing correct message. You can refresh your web page to see if you get the container. Yeah, it's there. So now if I retest by typing *vol and press send button, what we see, yeah, here you are. You see all the debug information shows emoji which has been sent. What's the name is called chatbot, and also input. We saw the inputs underneath under config. Yeah, all the configuration, including temperatures, stop bit, maxi token, whatever. But I saw the inputs. I don't see the input variable, which means somewhere I didn't pass my input correctly. So I'm correcting my code. I'm putting revise prompt. That function basically I will do deep copy about prompt deployment result, and I revise it by putting the text part, use the user input to replace original one. So in user already put that message in the chat container text box, so I will need to replace the message's information with the input. Basically, the input is a placeholder. I need to replace input with the message. So that's why I put input and message in the replace function to finish my revised prompt. By doing this, user's input, like here in this case, *vol will be passed in the API call, and I think the input will be we're gonna see in the debug log. It's basically this one. It's actually, I think it's that input box. If you put input here, basically this will be transformed to a input box, will be let API under hood to fill in that part, like it's a configurable or parameters in. Also, I need to finish this configuration part for OpenAPI message creation. I have to define my response model, prompt, temperature, all those parameters. I just use whatever my configurations used. After all those things, we're gonna try to see if I have debug console in web browser. It says the error inputs. It will give you the error HTTP local 500 internal error. It's probably when it's trying to fetch. It says, oh, okay, what it said. It's create completion. I was using OpenAI, but I didn't create instance looks in the Chatgpt. So after correct the code, now it seems to be working. I see all the outputs and also the feedback from the OpenAI, the emoji which match my prompt ID and the Batman, this input value. We can see this Batman input value has been replaced in the input part from the log. So now the next step, I think we need to find the debug information in the debug console of web browser. After long troubleshoot steps, I finally made it work. So the method, the thing is, I have to set this line. Console log, in this log, I put a response pass in. So the response will be displayed in the right side of browser, the emoji symbol, which I get from OpenAI library. So it will be changed based on the input value, and they use the same prompt ID, but based on the message config, revise the config message, and the answer you will see different emoji which exactly match the contents of that movie name, which has been input by user. And the next step, I think we just need to finish the final step, show this emoji in the GUI in the left side browser instead of just on debug window. I need to in chat container, I add that line set data. In use chat container, I set data, then in chat container JS, I will need to print that data response in a paragraph. So after those line changes, now if we do test, you're gonna see all those transactions in debug window. Also, if I press send button, it should be able to show the emoji in the GUI side underneath the send button. Yeah, let's see. Let's run test. So let's look at how the chat container does. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a line I just mentioned. I have to enable this line, which is a conditional loading. If it's loading, I will show in loading message. If else, I will show data in this paragraph. Add that condition in chat container. Now that's finished all the coding part. Let's run quick test. So if we do, for example, lineman send. Okay, what we get? Yeah, we got some emoji, like successfully did the test. So overall, this is looks simple project, but it's including so many contents, including React app, Node.js, HTML, CSS, and client-server basic knowledges. So if you are not very familiar with JavaScript, it's still a challenging task. That's why I rely on Chatgpt, my good friends, to help me do a lot of troubleshoot steps, including concepts explain, code debug, and code analyze, syntax errors, whatever. Everything has been done here. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and put comments. See you next time.